The Velara system was quiet. For a moment it seemed the storm of war had passed. The Council fleets drifted cautiously, scanning for any signs of returning Vorak ships. Every commander knew the Hive never gave up easily, and they were right. From the edge of the system, shadows began to shift. The Vorak had regrouped. More vessels appeared than before, fast, brutal, and determined. They came in waves, a dark tide stretching across the void. The Council fleets shivered. Many species had never seen such numbers. Some whispered that the swarm was endless. Others feared it might be. But the Leviathan did not hesitate. Inside the massive ship, Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the screens. His crew was ready. Engineers monitored weapon systems, gunners checked targeting arrays, and pilots strapped themselves into fighters. Lynn, his second-in-command, reported calmly, "The swarm is larger than the last wave, sir. Council ships are holding, but they will need support." Hale nodded. "Then we give them more than support. We give them a chance to survive." The Leviathan advanced, slowly, deliberately. Its engines rumbled through space, a steady pulse that resonated like a heartbeat. To alien observers, it still seemed old and sluggish, but every human on board knew the truth. The ship moved with purpose. The first wave of Vorak ships closed in, thinking the human supercarrier would falter. They did not. Hale gave the order, "Deploy the swarm." From the Leviathan's hidden hangars, drones and fighters poured into space again, thousands at a time. This time, the swarm of human machines was even larger, more organized and more deadly than before. The Vorak hesitated. Their sensors could not track every fighter. Their instincts, honed over centuries, failed to predict the chaos. The battle began in earnest. The Leviathan's railguns roared. Each shot tore through Vorak armor, splitting ships apart in seconds. Drones darted around enemy vessels, striking weak points, retreating, then striking again. Human fighters weaved in unpredictable patterns, forcing the Vorak to overreact and leaving them vulnerable to fire. One Vorak dreadnought moved to strike the Council flagship. Its claws reached outward, ready to crush the alien vessel like a toy. But the Leviathan's drones intercepted it. Small, fast, and relentless, the drones shredded the dreadnought's armor, exposing its core. Before the creature could react, a railgun slug slammed into it, sending it spinning in a fireball. The Council fleet watched in awe. Even the proud Drexians whispered, "Incredible." The humans fight like a storm, it was true. Humanity's tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They did not rely on raw numbers alone, or speed alone, or firepower alone. They combined all three with creativity, flexibility, and unpredictability. The Vorak learned quickly. They adapted to human tactics, but the Leviathan adapted faster. Every movement, every attack was analyzed, anticipated, and countered. The turning point came when the Leviathan revealed its hidden weapon, the drone forges inside its belly. Deep within the ship, massive machines churned endlessly, producing fresh fighters at a rate no enemy could expect. As one wave of drones was destroyed, another emerged. New models, stronger, faster, better equipped, replaced those lost. The Vorak could not understand it. Their hive mind was vast, yet it could not keep pace with the relentless production. Their strikes became desperate, uncoordinated, and chaotic. Hale watched it all quietly. "Push forward," he said. "We take the fight to them." The Leviathan surged ahead. Its engines, once thought slow and outdated, produced sudden bursts of acceleration. It moved through the Vorak swarm with terrifying efficiency, its massive railguns firing in synchronized volleys. Ships that had once thought the human vessel harmless now burned in its wake. The Council fleet found new courage. Ships that had faltered earlier now mirrored the Leviathan's tactics. They no longer clung to rigid formations. They moved unpredictably, striking where the Vorak least expected. The Harmony vessel used its self-repairing hull to stay in the fight longer. The Crimson Fang coordinated attacks with human fighters, covering blind spots and protecting vulnerable areas. Together, they pushed the swarm back. But the Leviathan had more surprises. Hidden beneath its hull were reinforced kinetic cannons and long-range interceptors. While its fighters and drones engaged the Vorak up close, these cannons fired massive slugs into the swarm at extreme distances. They struck like meteors, breaking enemy lines before they could reach Council ships. The Vorak reeled. Their hive mind struggled to coordinate attacks against a ship that fought on multiple levels at once. Above, below, inside, and around. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was a battlefield, a fortress, and a factory all in one. Inside, human engineers monitored everything, rerouting power to weapons, shields, or engines as needed. The ship could survive enormous punishment while striking back with devastating effect. In the bridge, Hale gave another order. Prepare the secondary railguns. These were smaller, faster-firing guns hidden along the hull. They unleashed a storm of metal, tearing apart Vorak fighters in dozens at a time. Each shot was carefully calculated, each strike deliberate. The swarm began to scatter under the pressure. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Once mocked as slow and outdated, the Leviathan now controlled the battlefield. Every move was calculated, every attack precise, every defense strong. The Vorak realized something terrifying. They could not overwhelm this ship. Hours passed, and the battle continued. The Vorak, once confident and aggressive, now fought defensively. Their numbers still dwarfed the Council fleets, but they were no longer invincible. The Leviathan moved through space like a mountain of war. Its hangars produced fighters faster than the swarm could destroy them. Its railguns and cannons tore apart Vorak dreadnoughts. Its crew, trained to adapt, anticipated every movement, and yet it did not overextend. Humans knew patience, knew when to strike and when to wait. The Leviathan was slow but unyielding. It wore the Vorak down, wave after wave, until the hive could take no more. Finally, the Vorak retreated. Black vessels, battered and broken, fled beyond the edge of the system. The survivors carried reports back to the hive. The human ship could not be stopped. The Council fleets, though battered, gathered around the Leviathan. Ships fired celebratory flares into space. Alien commanders whispered praises, some even bowing slightly to the humans' display of strength. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Do not judge humans by appearances. Their strength was not in speed, not in beauty, not in sleek designs. It was in resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity. Admiral Hale stood on the bridge watching the stars. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly. "The hive will return, and when they do, we will be ready again." The crew of the Leviathan cheered quietly, proud but focused. They had proven their ship's worth. They had turned the tide of battle. And they knew that the galaxy would never mock humanity again. Not truly. Outside, the Leviathan floated among the stars, its engines humming softly. A fortress, a factory, a weapon, a sleeping giant that had finally woken, and the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. The skies above the world of Velara glowed red with fire. Towers that once reached toward the stars now cracked and fell into rubble. Fields of crystal trees burned to black ash. The gentle rivers of light that once flowed through the capital city turned dark, poisoned with smoke and ruin. The people of Velara, called the Velari, were not a race made for war. They were artists, healers, and thinkers. Their voices were soft, and their cities were built with harmony in mind. They believed the galaxy was a place of shared peace. But peace had been broken the moment the Drexen horde came. The Drexen were a race bred for conquest. They marched in endless numbers, their ships like claws digging into every world they touched. They did not negotiate. They did not listen. To them, mercy was weakness, and weakness was something to be crushed. On this day, Velara's last defense crumbled. The Drexen forces stormed the capital. Families huddled in the ruins of once beautiful gardens. Mothers held their children close, whispering promises they were not sure they could keep. Inside a shattered communication dome, a group of desperate Velari gathered around a flickering console. Their leader, a tall woman with silver-blue skin named Elarin, placed her trembling hands on the device. Her eyes reflected flames from the burning horizon. "Our cities fall," she whispered, though her voice reached across the room. "Our people are dying. There is no army left. All we can do now is beg." An elder stepped forward, his face lined with sorrow. "Begging will not save us." The Drexen laughed at pleas. "The Galactic Council has already ignored us. No one will come." But Elarin lifted her chin. Her voice grew stronger, carried by a desperate hope. "Then we will send our words beyond the Council, beyond their politics, beyond their cowardice. Someone somewhere must hear us." She activated the console. The last of Velara's power surged into the signal. Across the stars, their message was cast: "We are the Velari. We call for mercy. Please, if you hear us, help us. Save our children. Do not let us vanish. We call for mercy." The message repeated again and again, echoing through space. The Drexen commander, orbiting above in a blackened warship, saw the signal burst from the ruined dome. He laughed, his voice a guttural growl. Let them call. The council fears us. No one dares to stand against the Horde. He turned to his crew. Burn their world until nothing is left but silence. And so the signal flew on, past wreckage and fire, past the edge of the Velari system, past sectors ruled by silence and fear. It crossed regions where the council refused to interfere, where other races dared not move. The cry for mercy was faint, but it traveled far. Farther still, it reached a system many in the galaxy had long forgotten, the forgotten world. The world was called Earth. To most alien civilizations, Earth was a mystery at best and a dismissed legend at worst. The Galactic Council had records of the humans, but they were old, dusty files. Humanity was thought to be young, reckless, and isolated, a race of little consequence compared to the mighty empires of the stars. Some even believed they had vanished in their own wars centuries ago. But the truth was far different. Beneath the quiet skies of Earth, deep in hidden stations orbiting their homeworld, humans had built something few outside their species could imagine. They had seen what the galaxy had done. Empires rising, empires falling, weak races crushed, strong ones ruling. Humanity had learned long ago that if no one would protect them, they would protect themselves, and so, in silence, in secret, they built. When the signal from Velara arrived, it was caught by an old relay. Buried in the dark side of the moon, a group of human watch officers stared at the translation as it came through. We call for mercy. Please help us. The room fell silent. One officer, a broad-shouldered woman named Captain Reyes, looked at the words and clenched her fists. How many times have we heard this before? How many signals have gone unanswered? An older man beside her, Admiral Jonas Hale, stared long at the glowing screen. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. Too many. And the council always turns away. But we are not the council. Around him, others exchanged tense looks. The decision was dangerous. The Drexen Horde was feared across the galaxy. To stand against them was to invite their wrath, but Admiral Hale gave only one command: wake them. At his words, alarms echoed through hidden hangars orbiting Earth. Deep in the blackness of space, vast forms stirred. They were not simple starships. They were machines larger than mountains, forged of steel and fire. For centuries, they had been built in silence, in the shadows, waiting for the day when Earth might need them. They were called war machines. The march of steel on Velara. The night sky was filled with smoke and Drexen warships. The people cowered in ruins, waiting for the end. And then, something shifted. Ilaran, still in the communication dome, raised her head. A light appeared in the heavens, faint at first but growing brighter. Then another and another. Soon the skies above Velara burned not with fire but with new stars, massive shadows blotting out the smoke. The Drexen commander snarled. What is this? Reinforcements? The council would not dare. But as the shapes grew clear, fear rippled through even his hardened crew. These were not council ships. These were something else entirely. From the Velari ground, the people stared upward. Children pointed, their eyes wide. The stars are moving, one whispered. And then, for the first time in weeks, hope flickered. The arrival one war machine, larger than the rest, descended into low orbit. Its hull was black steel, scarred as if it had already seen countless wars. Along its sides, vast weapons unfolded, glowing with power. The Drexen fleet moved to intercept. Their commander barked orders, sending volleys of plasma fire toward the human war machine. The sky blazed, but the war machine did not fall. Its shields shimmered, absorbing the strikes. Slowly it turned, massive cannons locking onto the Drexen fleet. Ilaran pressed her hands to the console, watching the sky. She had no words. The message they had sent was answered, but not as she expected. This was no fragile ally. No council patrol. These were beings of iron and fire. On the war machine's bridge, Admiral Hale stood with his hands behind his back. His voice was calm. They called for mercy, he said. Let us show them what mercy means to humans. The Drexen commander stood on the bridge of his warship, eyes fixed on the massive shadow that now loomed above Velara. It was not like any ship he had seen in his long career of conquest. It was too big, too heavy, and shaped for one purpose only: war. Fire again, he roared, slamming a clawed fist on the console. Plasma lances burst from Drexen guns, filling the sky with green light. Explosions rolled across the hull of the strange vessel. Smoke trailed, but the shadow did not fall. Instead, it turned, slowly like a giant waking from slumber. Its cannons rotated, energy built in deep cores hidden within its steel body. And then, light. Beams of pure force tore across the Drexen fleet. One ship, then another, vanished in a storm of fire. The commander gripped the rail, his voice shaking with sudden disbelief. This is no council craft. On the ground, the Velari huddled in silence, their wide eyes fixed on the sky. They had seen their world torn apart for weeks. They had seen family and friends fall under Drexen fire. Now they saw something different. Vengeance raining from the heavens. Ilaren, still in the communication dome, whispered to herself. They came. Someone heard us. Her heart ached with relief, but also with fear. Whoever these beings were, they carried weapons greater than any she had imagined. The awakening of war machines. Above Velara, the first war machine was not alone. One by one, others emerged from the shadows of space. They were vast, each one the size of a small moon. Their armor was blackened, their design harsh and purposeful. Unlike the sleek curves of council ships, these vessels bore scars. They were not made to impress. They were made to survive. Deep inside the command chamber of the lead war machine, Admiral Jonas Hale stood before his officers. The room was dim, lit by blue screens showing the battlefield. His face was calm, but his voice carried steel. Deploy drones. Ready the suits. The Drexen will not surrender easily. Captain Reyes at his side nodded. The Velari cities are still under attack. If we don't act fast, there will be nothing left to save. Admiral Hale gave a sharp order. Then we move now. Show them the meaning of mercy. And with that, the machines came alive. The sky burns. From the belly of each war machine, swarms of drones spilled forth. They were small compared to the massive vessels, but in numbers they filled the stars. Their wings glowed as they cut through Drexen fighter craft, moving with speed and precision no living pilot could match. Below, Drexen soldiers marched through Velari streets, their heavy boots crushing fragile crystal tiles. They raised weapons, ready to burn another district. But suddenly shadows fell over them. War suits descended, towering steel giants, each piloted by a human soldier. Their armored feet shook the ground as they landed. Weapons larger than Drexen cannons hummed with deadly light. The Drexen soldiers raised their rifles, but the humans fired first. Blinding bolts tore through their ranks, scattering them like dust before a storm. The Velari gasped as they watched from hidden shelters. They had never seen such power. To them, the war suits looked like living titans of legend. Children clutched their mothers, whispering, "Guardians." They sent guardians. The Drexen panicked back in orbit. The Drexen commander struggled to hold his fleet together. His ships, once feared across dozens of systems, now broke under the human assault. "Retreat is dishonor," he bellowed, though fear gnawed at his voice. "We are the Horde. We cannot fall to—" A blast cut through his ship, throwing him to the deck. Alarms screamed as fire spread across the bridge. He looked up, his vision filled with the massive human war machine bearing down upon him. For the first time in his life, the commander knew fear. The Velari see hope on the ground. Ilaren stumbled from the communication dome. Smoke filled the streets, but she pushed forward, searching for survivors. She found a group of children trapped under fallen beams. Before she could act, one of the human war suits appeared. Its huge metal hands lifted the rubble with ease. Gently, carefully, the pilot placed the children in safety. The machine then turned, firing its cannon at a Drexen tank that had aimed at them. The children clung to Ilaren, their eyes wide. She looked up at the towering machine. For the first time since the invasion began, she felt more than fear. She felt hope. The council watches far away. In the halls of the Galactic Council, whispers spread. Screens flickered with reports of the battle on Velara. Ambassadors and rulers from 100 species argued in fear. "Impossible," one said. "Those ships, they are too advanced. Who dares defy the Drexen?" asked another. And then the truth was revealed. A council archivist, pale with shock, whispered the word that silenced the chamber. Humans. The word hung in the air. Many had thought the humans gone, destroyed in their own wars. But here they were, alive and wielding weapons unlike any seen before. Fear and awe spread through the chamber. If the Drexen horde could fall before the humans, then no empire was safe from their power. Mercy in the flames as the battle raged, Admiral Hale's war machine opened channels to the ground. His voice, calm and firm, echoed through the ruined city. "People of Velara, you called for mercy. We are here." The Velari froze. They had never heard this language before, yet somehow it reached their minds, translated by the machines themselves. "You will not fall," Hale continued. "Stand behind us. We will shield you." Ellerin, holding the children close, felt tears run down her face. "They came for us," she whispered. "When no one else would, they came." The tide turns by nightfall. The Drexen fleet was broken. Wreckage burned in orbit, falling like meteors into the atmosphere. On the ground, their soldiers fled, chased by human war suits. The Velari gathered in what remained of their central square. They stared as the great machines stood like mountains of steel watching over them. One elder spoke with trembling voice. "They are not saviors. They are warriors, and they did not come to conquer." "No," Ellerin said softly, her eyes never leaving the giants. "They came because we asked. They came because we begged for mercy." Above, the war machines drifted silently, their weapons cooling, their presence like a storm that had passed but promised to return if needed. The Drexen were defeated, but every Velari knew this was only the beginning. Whoever these humans were, they had returned to the galaxy with power that could not be ignored. And somewhere deep inside, the Velari wondered, were these war machines built only to protect? Or would the day come when they turned their fire on others? The morning after the sky burned, silence fell over the city of Velara. For the first time in many weeks, no Drexen war horns echoed through the streets. The Velari walked carefully out of their hiding places, afraid the peace would not last. Above them, the human war machines drifted like mountains of steel in the sky. Their black hulls glowed faintly from battle, and their shadows stretched far across the land. To the Velari, it was as if the stars themselves had descended to watch over them. Children pointed and whispered. "They came for us." The giants came. Elders bowed their heads, both in gratitude and in fear, for they did not yet know what kind of beings commanded such power. Ellerin stood among the survivors in the central square. She gazed at the machines, her silver blue eyes reflecting their glow. She had sent the desperate message into the void. She had begged for mercy, and the humans had answered, but she wondered, what kind of mercy comes with so much fire? The Drexen refused to yield far above the peaceful square. The Drexen horde was not finished. Their fleet had been shattered the night before, but reinforcements were already rushing toward Velara. On board one of the surviving Drexen cruisers, Commander Korak snarled at his officers. His face was marked by scars, his voice low and hateful. "You fools let machines crush us. You let these humans humiliate the horde." One officer bowed, his scales pale with fear. "Commander, the war machines are beyond anything we have seen. Our weapons cannot pierce them." "Then we find another way," Korak growled. "The horde does not retreat. If we cannot burn them in the skies, we will break them on the ground. Prepare the second wave." Drexen transports filled with thousands of soldiers launched from orbit. Their target was the heart of the Velari capital, where survivors gathered. The Drexen planned to take hostages. If they could not defeat the human machines, they would use the innocent as shields. The humans move inside the command deck of the lead war machine. Admiral Jonas Hale stood before a glowing display of the battlefield. The reinforcements were coming. "Second wave inbound," Captain Reyes reported. "They're heading straight for the city." Hale's jaw tightened. "They want to use the civilians as leverage." "Exactly," Reyes said grimly. "If they dig in with hostages, the fight will get much harder." Admiral Hale gave the order without hesitation. "Deploy ground suits. Engage before the Drexen touched the city." Deep inside the massive vessel, hangar bays opened. Dozens of towering war suits, humans encased in steel giants, launched from the bays, streaking downward like falling stars. On the ground, the Velari gasped as the machines descended. Their armored frames crashed into the streets with the force of meteors, yet none struck the shelters or squares. Each landed with careful precision, standing like guardians over the people. Ellerin shielded her eyes as one landed near her. Dust rose in the air, and then the machine straightened, its eyes glowing with blue light. It stood taller than any building left in the city. Slowly it turned its head toward her, as if acknowledging the woman who had called for help. She whispered, "They are here to fight for us." The clash in the city moments later, Drexen transports screamed through the sky. Their armored hulls split open as waves of soldiers poured out, snarling and roaring. Their boots pounded against the crystal streets as they raised heavy rifles. But the humans were already waiting. The warsuits advanced with thunderous steps, weapons glowing in their steel hands. The first Drexen volley struck, bolts of green fire slamming into human armor. Shields shimmered, absorbing the attack. The humans did not fall. "Return fire," one pilot growled inside his suit. The streets lit up as the warsuits unleashed their weapons. Energy beams cut through Drexen ranks. Explosions tore their transports apart. In minutes, what had begun as an invasion became a slaughter. The Velari watched from behind barricades. To them, the battle looked like a clash of gods, giants of metal standing firm against the tide of monsters that had once seemed unstoppable. One child clutched Ilaren's hand. "Will they win?" Ilaren watched as a warsuit swung its massive arm, crushing a Drexen tank like it was made of clay. She nodded slowly. "Yes, they will win. Mercy and fire, yet the Drexen fought with cruel cunning. In the chaos, a group of their soldiers broke through the lines and stormed into a shelter where families hid. They raised their weapons at the civilians. The Velari screamed, but one human warsuit charged into the alley, blocking the path. The Drexen fired at its chest, but the suit absorbed the blows. Slowly, the machine lowered to one knee, spreading its arms to shield the people behind it. Through external speakers, a human voice rang out, calm but fierce. "Run, get to safety. I'll hold them." The Velari fled, guided by the massive shadow that protected them. The warsuit then rose, its weapon glowing brighter than the sun. A single shot ended the Drexen squad. From that moment, the Velari began to understand what kind of mercy humans offered. It was not soft. It was not weak. It was mercy forged in fire, a promise that no innocent would fall while they still stood. The Drexen break by midday. The streets were covered with Drexen wreckage. Their transports smoldered, their soldiers scattered or dead. The few who survived fled into the forest beyond the city, hunted by human drones. In orbit, Commander Korak slammed his fists against the console. "Impossible. How can one species build such weapons?" His eyes burned with rage, but in his heart, fear took root. His communications officer whispered, "Commander, shall we retreat?" Korak hesitated, his pride at war with survival. Retreat was dishonor, but death was final. At last he snarled, "Fall back. Regroup with the main fleet. This battle is lost." And so, the Drexen fled. The Velari's new guardians, as the last enemy fire faded. The Velari gathered once more in the ruined square. Above them, the human warsuits stood silently, their glowing eyes scanning the horizon for danger. Ilaren stepped forward. She raised her voice so all could hear. "We asked for mercy and they came. They fought when no one else would. They shielded us when no one dared." The people whispered among themselves. Some were afraid of the humans' power, but most felt something they had not known in weeks. Hope. One elder lifted his hands toward the machines. "If these are humans, then the stories were wrong. They are not reckless. They are not weak. They are protectors." Ilaren looked to the sky, where the great war machine still drifted. "Perhaps they are more than protectors," she said softly. "Perhaps they are a warning to all who think mercy means weakness." The human resolve inside the lead war machine. Admiral Hale studied the battlefield. His officers waited for his command. "Reports from the ground?" he asked. Captain Reyes smiled faintly. "The Velari live. The Drexen are broken." Hale gave a slow nod. "Then our work here is not finished. Mercy is not only about saving lives, it is about making sure this does not happen again." His eyes hardened. "Prepare the fleet. The Drexen will return with greater numbers. When they do, we will be ready." The Velari had seen their first glimpse of the humans in battle. The galaxy had seen the first spark of their return. And the Drexen, for the first time in centuries, had tasted fear. The first clash was over. But war was only beginning. The sky over Velara was still streaked with smoke from the battle, but the streets were quieter than they had been in months. The Drexen had fled, leaving behind wreckage and the bodies of their soldiers. The Velari wandered through the ruins, their eyes wide in disbelief. Children peeked from behind shattered walls. Mothers lifted them into their arms. For the first time, hope stirred among the survivors. But that hope was tempered by fear. They had seen power unlike any they had known, and it had come from humans. Ilaren stood in the central square, looking up at the war machines still hovering above. Each was immense, bristling with weapons, yet completely still. Their calm presence filled the Velari with awe and unease. "They are enormous. a young man whispered. Are they alive? Elarin shook her head. I do not think so. But they are very aware. They are waiting. The Drexen regrouped far above the shattered world. The Drexen commander Korak seethed in his retreating flagship. His pride had been humiliated and his army had suffered terrible losses. How can one species crush our fleet so easily? He growled to his officers. We are the Drexen horde. No one can stand against us. His second-in-command, pale with worry, spoke cautiously. Commander, the humans' machines are too strong. We cannot face them directly. Perhaps we should retreat to another system and regroup. Korak's jaw tightened. Retreat is shame, but... His eyes flicked to the sensor screen, showing the immense human machine still orbiting Velara. We must survive. If we lose again, the horde will crumble. Send the call. All fleets converge on Velara. This time we will crush them or die trying. A shiver ran through the surviving Drexen officers. The humans had fought with precision and power beyond their expectations, and now the horde would pay for their mistake with an escalation they had not anticipated. The Velari discover the humans' true strength on the ground. The Velari were beginning to understand that the humans were not only powerful, but also organized in ways the Drexen had not expected. War suits patrolled the streets in controlled patterns, ensuring no survivors were left in danger. Drones hovered overhead, scanning for signs of Drexen ambushes or hidden explosives. Elarin walked with a small group of civilians, trying to organize them to safety. A human pilot in a warsuit knelt beside a fallen bridge, raising it effortlessly to allow trapped families to escape. The Velari whispered among themselves. These are not just soldiers. They are guardians. They think about saving us, not just fighting. A child tugged at Elarin's sleeve. Will they always protect us? Elarin smiled softly, though her heart was heavy. I think they will protect us as long as they need to. But we must be ready too. They cannot stay forever. The Drexen panic spreads. In the Drexen flagship, reports came in from all directions. Their reinforcements had been slowed, attacked by swarms of drones. Their scouts reported human war machines moving with precision, striking where the enemy was strongest. Commander Korak slammed his clawed hand against the console. Impossible. How can they know where we will be? They are everywhere at once. One junior officer dared to speak. Commander, they seem to anticipate our movements. It is as if they can read the battlefield before it happens. Korak hissed through his teeth. Humans are cunning, he said in disbelief. They fight as one, but also with a mind of their own. No plan we make survives contact. Our fleets are crumbling before we even reach them. Panic rippled through the remaining Drexen ships. Many officers called for retreat. Others proposed sending hostages to force the humans to withdraw. Korak's voice rang out, filled with rage and fear. Do not retreat. If we flee now, the horde dies with shame. Attack with everything, or we die as legends of fools. But even as he gave the command, doubt gnawed at him. These humans were unlike any enemy he had faced. A Velari perspective. Back on Velara, Elarin and her people watched as the humans prepared for the next wave. Massive war suits lined the streets. Drones swarmed above, scanning for threats. One Velari elder stepped forward. I have studied the stars for centuries, he said quietly. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen power that destroys entire worlds. But I have never seen anything like this. Elarin nodded. Neither have I. They did not come to rule us. They came because we called for mercy, and they will fight until we are safe. The elder frowned. Mercy comes with a price. They carry weapons no one can match, and the Drexen will return stronger. These humans, they are not just protectors. They are a force the galaxy has not seen in centuries. Elarin's voice was firm. Then we will learn from them. We will survive because they have shown us how. Humans prepare for the return inside the lead war machine. Admiral Hale studied the reports from drones and pilots. The Drexen were retreating, but he knew their victory was temporary. They will return, he said to Captain Reyes. And they will come with more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. We must be ready, Reyes nodded. What do we do now? Hale's gaze was steady. We prepare. We rebuild. We protect. Mercy is not passive. It is active. And if the Drexen come again, they will see the full measure of human power. The war machines rotated slightly, their weapons scanning the horizon. Drones patrolled the skies. Pilots ran simulations of enemy movements. Everything moved with purpose, quiet and controlled. Like a storm ready to strike again, the Drexen realized the truth far from the battlefield. The surviving Drexen fleets communicated with each other in fear and disbelief. Reports came in of drones appearing in systems the Drexen thought secure. Fleets were being ambushed even before they could assemble. Commander Korak's voice was low and trembling. They are not just defending Velara. They are everywhere. They have eyes in the stars. They strike before we even know we are in danger. An officer asked cautiously, "Commander, can we survive this?" Korak's eyes narrowed. "We survive only if we abandon the Horde, if we hide in the shadows of space. But the Horde cannot hide. And the humans never rest." Panic spread across the Drexen ranks like wildfire. The fear that had been whispered for decades now became real. The unstoppable conquerors were now hunted by a force they could not understand. Hope and fear intertwined on Velara. The Velari began to rebuild. Survivors cleared rubble, restored small homes and tended to the wounded, but their eyes constantly watched the sky, aware that the Drexen could return at any moment. Ilaren walked among them, her heart heavy. She had begged for mercy and humans had answered. But she knew that mercy could also bring war. The power that protected them now could just as easily reshape the galaxy in ways they could not imagine. One child tugged at her sleeve. "Will the Drexen come back?" Ilaren looked at the horizon, where the last human war machines hovered. "Yes," she said softly, "but they will not face them alone. We will have guardians, and if the humans are here, we will survive." Above, the war machines moved in silent precision, preparing for the inevitable return of the Drexen. Each pilot inside knew the fight was far from over. Each human soldier knew the galaxy was watching, and that the Velari were not the only ones in need. The first wave of panic was over. The Drexen had been beaten back, but a greater storm was coming, and humanity would be ready.